part one of these videos was about the reason, the evidence, the statistics and research that's been done to prove how important reading is for children's success. And this week I want to talk about reading for pleasure, because this is a phrase that's used really, really frequently when we're talking about children's reading. And it might be obvious, but there are some slight details and nuances that are worth mentioning when we're talking about what reading for pleasure means. I want to start with an example, and the example is of my youngest child. And when he was in primary school, he developed a passion for the Beast Quest books. And I wasn't quite so keen on them. I found them very, very similar. There are hundreds of Beast Quest books and books related to the whole franchise, and the adventures are very similar. There's a beast, and there's some heroes, and they go and find the beast, and they conquer it. And the characters continue throughout the books. But for me, there didn't seem any any characters that felt really different from when they started the stories. But he adored these books, and I would read them with him. And what I discovered when I read them with him was that although the story and the characters and the story arc wasn't that great, the vocabulary in the book, in all the books, was particularly good. There was some really strong, challenging vocabulary, and I decided that I would just live with the fact that I didn't love the stories, because even if nothing else, he loved the books and he was gaining a lot of really great vocabulary. Now, this is not a sales pitch for Beast Quest, and I'm genuinely quite glad I don't have to sit and read those books regularly anymore. But it was really important that he had chosen those stories and he loved them, and I let him develop that love and that interest in those books, and believed that eventually he would outgrow them and he would still retain that love of reading. And it was right. He's a voracious reader. He reads lots of different things. He reads some very difficult books that I've never read. And as a teenager, he loves reading. So it was definitely a strategy that was worth it. So reading for pleasure is about allowing your child to find books that they become passionate about, books that they seek out, books they want to read. And I keep saying books, but actually there's a lot of different things that they could be reading. It may be they don't want to sit down and read an entire book, but they might like graphic novels, or they might like comics, or recipes, or poetry. There's so many different things that children might discover they particularly love, and it has to be what they love, not what you love. So I've had parents who have said to me in the past, I am really passionate about this subject, and it really makes me sad that my child doesn't have the same passion. And I've said to them, maybe in the future they will grow that passion, but at the moment, the important thing is you discover what your child's passion is, and you allow your child to find things to read about that. So if they love dinosaurs or plants or parts of the world or aircraft, whatever it is that they are passionate about, that is what you have to spend your time seeking out and finding the things they want to read that relate to their interests. My second story about my experience of trying to encourage a child to read is a pupil that I had. And it was a little girl who very much was into makeup and dresses and things like that, but didn't particularly love sitting down and reading a book. And I started up a reading club at lunchtime. The explicit purpose of this reading club was to encourage a group of children that were just not showing books much love. So I thought really hard about the children that were in this particular group, the individuals, and was struggling to think how I would get this little girl to be excited about reading. I was standing in the shop line in the UK, and quite often must have been about Christmas time, as often happens around Christmas time. There were lots of annuals on the shelves by the checkout, and there was a Barbie annual, and this was long before Margot Robbie, raised the flag of feminism with Barbie, or at least re-raised it. And I looked at this book and thought, this annual, and it isn't a book in the traditional sense, but within it has stories. It has comic strips. It has how to make things and do things, which are instructions. And I grabbed a copy and bought it to take along to my reading group. And my hunch had been right. This little girl homed in on it, and at first was just flicking through the pages, but she came back to that annual again and again and again, and read it back to front and front to back several times. And the words that she didn't understand, she came and asked for help. And it was definitely not material I would have been able to pick up and put in the classroom as a text for a class of children. But it was her text. It was what excited her and made her want to read. This is where reading at home is also really important. When you're a teacher in school, you have certain texts and certain books that you want all children to read, or either as a class or individually, and they'll be working through reading programs. They're dealing with the nuts and bolts of how to read. But what you can do as a parent is very different, extremely important, and linked to what they're doing at school, and that is finding the love of books. It may be that you don't have a lot of love for books, but this is where it's also important for you to at least not discourage them. And the best thing can be is if you can actively encourage them. I'm not a big advocate of lying to children. I try my absolute best to be honest with them in terms that are suitable for them. But this is one occasion where being a little bit duplicitous, being a little bit uh, exaggerating your interest is actually really important. If you tell your children you hate books, they are not going to see any reason why they should love them. You're their adult, you're the person they look to, and they're going to follow your lead. I'm not saying you've got to sit there with Jane Austen and pretend that you love it, but taking an interest in books and taking them along to the library and helping them through their pathway is really important too. When I taught year 4 children, they're 9-year-olds, and a lot of them were telling me, I don't need to learn how to do reading, I don't need to learn how to do maths, I'm going to be a footballer. And I'd say to them, well, you all need to be able to read. You need to be able to enjoy reading and do it the best that you can. Because even if you're a footballer, you're going to need to read your contracts and read the materials that are put in front of you. And you don't want people pulling the wool over your eyes because you can't read the small print in your contract. And also, footballers' careers don't last forever, so you're going to need to think about what you're going to do beyond your football career in ways that will be interesting and fun for the rest of your second career. I'm going to leave you with two things. The first is that this is a process that's going to probably take a little bit of experimentation, picking some books up, finding that they're not what works, trying out different things. And books, I know, can be expensive if you're trying to buy quite a few of them. Next week, I'm going to talk about different ways you can get your hands on things to read that are not going to break the bank. But in the meantime, there's the library. And the library is a wonderful place because not only does it have lots of books on different subjects, it has incredible librarians who know what books to advise and recommend. And finally, if you find something that's in a library in the UK and you want it, but it's not your library, they can do interlibrary loans. So library is your best friend in trying to find the things that your child will enjoy reading. And the very last thing I'm going to leave you with is that on the Reading Riddle website, there is a Vlad Flea Reading Club sheet, and it's just a bit of fun. It's a set of ideas of things to try reading. So if you're stuck and you don't know what to suggest, it's got suggestions like reading some poetry. And poetry doesn't have to be, don't have to be rushing off and reading Sassoon. You could, it's children's poetry, funny rhymes, joke books, graphic novels, history books, myths and legends. There's a whole set of suggestions of books that you could try, and if you try them, you can colour on the reading sheet, and try and experiment a little bit and find what is really encouraging your child to read. So as I said, next week I'll be coming back with suggestions, some practical suggestions, some thoughts about the kind of things that you can read that might be a little bit different, and ways to get hold of them that won't be too expensive, especially if you're grouping together with different people. So that will be next Wednesday.